So yeah, we are a broadband internet provider, and we provide that service over satellite. So that's the whole Viasat kind of thing. So I'm the channel manager. I'm based out of the Atlanta market, but I provide support for Florida, Texas, pretty much the entire Southeast. So, all right, so a little bit about Viasat. We are a classic Silicon Valley kind of success story. So started in 1986 with a couple of guys in their garage building communication systems. Mark Dankberg, who is still our CEO today, Rick Baldridge, who is still our president today, and another gentleman, started the company, and over the course of several years grew that into what we have today. So Viasat today has 5 satellites currently in orbit, 2 that are under construction, and I'll talk a little bit about those, but we have about 500,000 internet subscribers currently nationwide, and more bandwidth than any other satellite provider in the United States. So the company as a whole, about 60% of our revenue comes from the government, Department of Defense primarily. So we run a lot of communication infrastructure for troops and service members out in the field, and government officials, all sorts of applications like that, a lot of top secret stuff, which is pretty cool. And some VIP individuals for the government as well. So that's where a lot of our revenue comes from. From a business standpoint, we're relatively new to the industry. So we just signed on with TCG in, February, I think. So we're really getting our feet wet in this space. Primarily in the commercial space, we're a residential provider. We've offered a lot of services to residential. We've got a lot of customers in that area. So, all right. So as I said, our satellites provide significant bandwidth improvements over previous satellites that were available and current competitors. So, and as you can see, just as the technology continues to improve, like anything in our lives, the capabilities of the technology improve so dramatically. So if you look on the far right there, you can see Viasat 1, which is currently live. Viasat 2, which was launched in June of last year and is now just finally coming online, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that shortly. And Viasat 3, which is currently under construction. You can just see such a dramatic increase in the capabilities and throughputs of those satellites. And what does that mean for you? Well, that just means that you have now the ability to offer high-capacity broadband services anywhere in places that can't be served. So, another thing that we really excel at is in-flight connectivity. So we have a group of individuals working for our company that provide services to the airlines. So anybody here flown JetBlue? Okay, so if you've flown JetBlue, you've used our service. They use our service exclusively on their flights. We've got about a third of the United fleet is my understanding, and then probably about, we just signed a deal with American Airlines as well to take over a number of their flights. So this is really, really cool. So if you've flown JetBlue, you know what a dramatic improvement it is over, say, GoGo or some of those other options that are available on Delta, for example. I was on a JetBlue flight just a little while ago, and the gentleman next to me was FaceTiming his kids from the flight while he was up there. So that's pretty incredible when you think about that kind of capability that you can do that from 30,000 feet in the air. You can FaceTime your kids in Des Moines, Iowa, or wherever it is. All right. About 560 aircrafts that we've got out there right now, and that's continued to grow. As I said, this slide was put together before we announced American Airlines, which was a very significant addition, obviously, to the offering. So let's talk a little bit about business services, right? That's what we're all here for. You guys are selling telecom services to businesses primarily, and we have the ability to do something that you guys previously have not been able to do, and that's just say yes. Dan alluded to this, that there's always opportunities. If you've been in telecom for more than 10 minutes, you will always run into an opportunity where you just can't get somebody good service. Maybe you want to sell them some cloud services, but you can't get them good bandwidth where they are. Maybe you want to put them on a VoIP service, but you can't get them good bandwidth. Or heck, maybe they're a multi-site customer. They've got 15 locations. 12 of them are good to go, but 3 of them are out in the middle of nowhere, and you just don't have a good option for them. Well, I am that option now. We can help you in that regard. So we offer services. Right now, today, we cover about 90% of the U.S. Within the next 60 days, we will be 100% of the U.S., and that just means you can offer high-speed broadband to anybody, anywhere. Only thing they need is power for the modem and a clear line of sight. That's it. So line of sight to the southern sky. So that is all the requirements. All right. So this is what's available today. We offer, you can see that map down there in the bottom left-hand corner. You've got the green areas is where we offer our high-capacity speeds through Viasat 1, which is the satellite that we had launched previously. That speeds right now we offer up to 35 megs down by 4 megs up, and that's unlimited bandwidth for $175 a month. Okay? So the way that works is the customer can use as much data as they want for $175 per month, 35 by 4. Now, of course, there are some acceptable use clauses there, which I can talk about in the Q&A period, but essentially that gets them very fast speeds at about 90% of the country. This can fill in the coverage gaps for you, as I said. So you've got customers that are out there now, and you can provide them with an option where you couldn't before. Maybe they were only able to get really, really slow DSL service before. Or maybe you've got them on a really bad hotspot because that's all you could get out there. We're another option for that you can now put in there. As I said earlier, we have thousands of customers using our service for VoIP. We've got thousands of customers using our services for POS. We just signed a large deal with a major retailer where they're going to be putting us into all of their stores and handling all their POS traffic. Gone through a whole testing period with them and now have signed that deal. Lots of stuff going on and lots of capabilities that you can now offer your clients. The great news about this, we can install almost anywhere in the US in 3 to 5 business days. So think about that. You've got a customer that you ordered a Comcast circuit for or an AT&T circuit for or whatever, and that customer is opening their business on Saturday because they thought the service would be available. Well, you get that phone call, oops, sorry guys, we've got to do some construction. And I used to work for the cable company, I know how this works. Sorry guys, we messed up, we got to do some construction, it's going to be about 30 to 45 days. Okay, well, what are we going to do now? We've got this grand opening plan for Saturday, and we don't have any service. Well, that's where I can help. You give me a call, I can be there in 3 to 5 days. In a lot of cases, I'm there next day if I have to, and we can get your customer up and running so that they can be ready to go for their grand opening. So, a customer, you guys know Kevin Zimmerman, I'm sure. He sent me a guy, very similar situation like that, needed service right away. He sent me the paperwork on Wednesday. By Thursday afternoon, I had that guy installed. So. Yeah, that's right, yeah. All right, another thing that we are really, really good at and really excel is backup and redundancy. And this is, of course, of major importance down here in Florida. But all of our infrastructure is 23,000 miles above the earth. So hurricanes, all those kind of things essentially leave all of our infrastructure intact. When Irma and Harvey came through last year, we had email after email, case study after case study from customers who literally fired up their portable generator, hooked it into the Viasat modem, and boom, they were up and running. There's a customer that was sold through a partner that right after Irma, they were south of Orlando, got hit pretty hard in that area. Comcast was down, wireless was down. Fortunately, they had us in there as a backup. They fired it up and got their service up and running. They were able to take calls and to take orders over the internet. And they were in the landscaping business, which is a great industry to be in after a storm. They made about $16 million of revenue in 3 weeks because they were one of the only ones that could take orders. So great case study for that and a great story to tell your customers. If you've got customers that are concerned about business continuity through those types of natural disasters or just anything, somebody backs a hoe into a telephone pole and takes out all the carriers in that area. Best case scenario, that's still going to take them 2-3 days to get that up and going, right? So you need to make sure they have an option. We're ideal for that scenario because all of our infrastructure is up in space. We also work well with SD-WAN. We can be deployed as an active-active, active-passive, whatever the case may be, so we can do that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about SD-WAN. I sort of alluded to this earlier, but we've got a nice little diagram here that sort of illustrates 2 different businesses. One in building B there, and you might not be able to see it depending on how far you are. They've got multiple carriers servicing their business, but they're, got everything going through the ground, and, a backhoe just came through and ripped up the right-of-way, taking everybody out. Business A there, they've got the same provider, so they lose that, but they've also got a satellite connection, and they're up and running right away. So the great thing about all of our plans is we've got a whole variety of them, which I'm going to go through here in a minute. And the customer has the ability to switch their plan at any time during their 24-month term. So if they want to start out with us just as a pure backup play, 1 gig plan for $60 a month, put it in place, and then if they need to use it, they can make a phone call and upgrade to the unlimited plan for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever time frame they need to get their other services back up and running. And then when that happens, they can just make a phone call and downgrade again. That's exactly what that landscaping business did. They had the 1 gig plan, and then they upgraded to the unlimited while they needed it. Yeah, sir.
You're quoting some prices. What about install?
Yep, I'll get to that. I'll get to all that in a minute. Yep. All right. So this is the Viasat 2 map that I showed, that I alluded to earlier. And as you can see, it's a very, very wide or very big improvement over our previous coverage area. So a lot of areas, if you look down there, we're going to start to get into the south, into the Caribbean, down into Mexico, a lot of those areas. We just added an asset in Brazil that we hope to be able to start selling from as well. And then, of course, up into Canada. So we've got a lot of future growth and future expansion that we're going to be able to do. We're probably still 3 to 6 months away from being able to offer services in the Caribbean, Mexico, Canada, those areas. But again, for those customers that you have that have sites all over North America, Mexico, Canada, we can now tell you that you will have an option for them. So you can go to them and say, hey, I've got an option that you can put at every single one of your locations through one provider based here in the United States. So that's a pretty powerful offering. Yes, sir?
The yellow area isn't deployed yet, correct?
Yeah, we're about 70% deployed through those.
So for example, like if I'm on a cruise in the Caribbean?
Yeah, so that will be a future thing that we can do, right? So we've got a maritime group that we're starting to bring in opportunities. So if you've got an opportunity like that, then let's talk, because we don't have an offering yet for the market, but we're developing one, and those are the types of opportunities that'll get us there.
What does the latency look like?
So latency on satellite is about 600 milliseconds. Okay, so I know what you're thinking, right? You're like, that's not going to work for VoIP, right? It does, yeah. So we've got thousands of customers that are using us for VoIP. Now, candidly, it's not ideal, right? If you had your option of, say, Comcast or AT&T or us to use as your primary VoIP provider, you'd probably want to go with the other one for that latency. But in a situation where you don't have another option, right, we can service it. There are some tweaks that you need to do to the service, specifically around the retransmit timeout. And I can walk you through how all that works, but it will work. We do have thousands of customers, including that landscaper. They ran their entire business over us, including VoIP, when that went down. So, any other questions?
Does weather degradate service?
Yeah, so any line of sight technology will be impacted by weather. But unlike, say, DirecTV or Dish, which is KU band, that's just a broadcast transmission that is picked up by a dish. So when weather comes in, it's just interrupted and you got to wait till you get it again. Ours is KA band, which is a genuine two-way transmission, okay? So a packet gets sent and gets received and confirmation gets sent. In scenarios where you've got severe weather, that packet is just resent. So typically what will happen is the service will slow down. So you'll see, in the case of a severe weather, you'll go from 35.4, you might go down to 15/2 or something like that. But it still works with everything except very severe storms. So when Harvey and Irma came through, our services were down while the storm was there. But as soon as they were out, we were back up and running right away. So.
When you said your services were down, hence they were not down, they were just unable to communicate.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the satellite, they were unable to communicate with the satellite. Yeah, so that's the thing about satellite. It's never really down, right? That satellite is always up there and it's always broadcasting. So it's just a matter of, can your dish receive the transmission from the satellite? Thank you for the clarification. You're right. Yes, sir?
Well, what happens to the actual physical disk in a hurricane with strong winds? Can it sustain damage?
Yeah, we had about 30% of the dishes in that area, like for the Irma example or Harvey I gave, were damaged. And obviously if the dish is damaged, then you can't read the transmission. But we were able to get techs out and repair those within a couple of days in most scenarios. So again, there's not a lot of infrastructure, right? You can just go in and put the dish, point it back at the satellite, and you're up and running. So no construction, none of that stuff has to take place. So, all right, so back here I showed you guys our current plans, okay? So as you can see here, we've got metered plans and then unlimited plans. So a metered plan is a plan where you buy a specific amount of data, and you use that data, and then you get charged if you go over, okay? And then we also have an unlimited plan where you will never get charged for using additional data or more data. You can use as much as you want, you'll still pay that same price. You'll never be charged for overages. So this is what we offer today. Starting with the redundancy plan I referenced earlier, you've got the $60 a month for a gig of data. That's a great place to start if you're looking at a customer that just wants pure redundancy. And then again, they can move up and down as they need to on there. 75% of our customers use less than 50 gigs of data a month, okay? So that's an important, everybody always wonders, well, I don't even know how much data I use. So if they're a typical business, just doing typical business type things, they're gonna use, most cases are gonna use less than 50 gigs of data a month. All right, let's talk about what's coming. All right, so beginning of next week, we hope. We've had a few delays on this. It was actually supposed to be live today, but we had some stuff. We're going to be expanding our broadband offering tremendously. So the 35x4 is not going anywhere, that unlimited plan for $175, but in some areas, we're going to be able to offer as fast as 60 down and 100 down in a lot of areas. So that's cable type speeds, right, in some of those areas. Now the upload, we're going to start off with 3, which I know is low for a lot of customers. But the goal will be to raise that as we continue to move forward and the product is fully developed. So in practice on our 35x4, during business hours, we're seeing a lot of customers that are actually getting between 5 and 6. But we can't advertise at those rates until we see them for a consistent period of time based on FCC regulations and things. And still a lot of testing and development that needs to go into these products. So we're going to be launching at 60 down by 3 up and 100 down by 3 up in some of those areas. Yeah?
What actually gets delivered to the customer's site?
As far as equipment? Yeah. So the dish looks very much like a DirecTV or dish setup, okay? So it's a actual satellite dish, the same size. It's got what's called a tria that sits on the end. And that dish can either be mounted on a roof or a pole to the side of the building. However, there's a coax line that goes into a modem, and then from that modem, it's just an Ethernet handoff. So then the modem's the only thing that needs to be powered at the site. All right, so that's pretty cool, right? 100 megs down in some areas. Somebody else had a question? Yeah.
So I see persistent IP addressing. Are those like a DHCP I can hand it off to the customer and it's persistent?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, but it doesn't change once it's assigned. Okay. Yeah, so once it's been assigned, it doesn't change, but your device has to be able to accept DHCP. So, sorry? Not sure. I'll have to check.
And last question, your core infrastructure, I understand you have outages, obviously the satellite's 20,000 feet in the air, but in terms of the core infrastructure, do you guys have like a super stable infrastructure done before?
Yeah. Yeah, we've got several grounds. We got thousands of miles of fiber, ground stations, all that throughout the United States. So it's a very, very robust redundancy backup infrastructure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's outside. Yeah, it needs to see the sky. So it needs to have a view of the southern sky. So, sorry? Not necessarily. So we do a lot of pole mounts as well, and actually that's the preferred mount. So if it's a Class A tower, say 8 to 10 stories, most times you're going to be on the roof. We've got a non-penetrating roof sled that we can put up there that's probably the most common install. So it's basically a sled with the dish mounted on it, so it doesn't have to penetrate the roof, and then the coax just goes down the conduit as per anything else. For single-story structures, if we can, we'll do a pole mount. And that's just a pole that's mounted outside the building and goes up, and that way you don't have to penetrate the roof or anything like that, and it's a pretty easy install. So we do a lot of those too. Those are the two most common for businesses, but I've got a list of probably 8 to 10 different installs that we can do depending on the configuration. Yeah? No, not for private property, right? So you do need to get permission from the building owner to put a dish on the roof, right? But there's no city permits or anything like that that's required. No. The only situation I ran into, and I actually think it might have been a TCG agent, we had a town in North Carolina that stipulated that no infrastructure could be visible from the road. And based on where the building was for the dish to see the southern sky, it had to be visible from the road, and the customer was unwilling to pay to screen it in. So that's the only instance where I've had a municipality step in with some kind of regulations that prevented an install.
So you guys actually put the pole in, or
Yeah.
does the customer sponsor?
No, we'll do all that. All that's included for us, right? And so the install fee right now is $299, but we are going to be running a promotion here, and as soon as we launch these new plans for a $99 install. Should go for probably 3-month term. So.
Even if you run that cable 10 floors?
Yeah, well, you just got to run a different kind of cable in those instances. We've got a ton of installs that we've done. Like we use plenum cable in those instances because can go farther run. Yeah. Yeah, sure, absolutely. I can get that. I think I'll leave a copy with these guys and we can send it out. And my card's at the back here, so come grab it and I'll send you guys all kinds of information as well if you have any other questions. All right, so here's some other plans. For those that like to just, hey, we're only going to use it as a backup. We only need a certain amount of data. Metered plans is a great option. So probably my most popular option on this is going to be this 10 gig plan right there. 10 gigs of data for $80 a month. We do a lot of agribusiness, so solar farms, places like that don't use a ton of data, but they need some kind of connectivity. The 10 gig plan is basically tailor-made for those kinds of businesses. So you guys familiar with Smithfield Farms? They're a large hog producer. We have every single one of their farms throughout the United States, and they use that 10 gig plan all day long. That plan is tailor-made for them. Yeah?
I've got a customer with 130 locations.
Okay.
Would you be willing to put together something like, where they can aggregate the bandwidth usage?
Like a pooling? Yeah, so we don't have that today, but certainly we can talk about it because we've had a number of opportunities to discuss that. But I think, yeah, let's talk. Let's talk offline about that. I think there's some possibilities there for sure. Yeah. All right. So, any questions about any of this? Yeah.
Sorry, did you say a 3-month deal? I thought I heard you say.
No, it's a 24-month term. So all of our terms are 24 months. Okay, but no, we don't. Well, the bandwidth, the 1 gig plan you can get on a month-to-month basis, but at that price. But again, that's just 1 gig of data. So yeah, and if you upgraded it, you'd have to go to the other. So 24-month term. Now the one thing, so a lot of construction companies and things have been using our product, right? You got a trailer in the middle of nowhere. You need it there for 8 months, 9 months. What do you do for those guys, right? They're going to use a lot more than a gig data, right? So what we've done for them is our ETF fees are only $15 per month remaining, okay, which is nothing. So if you cancel after the first year, it's $180, right? And so for most of those big construction projects, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. So we've been doing a lot of those kind of things. And actually, they prefer, a lot of those things are on their own contracts, their own corporations many times, so they prefer having everything wrapped up rather than moving it to another site. Yeah?
Couldn't they technically take it with them to the next level?
Yeah, no. So this is not a mobile product, this one. Now, we do offer mobility as a product line that we have not launched to the channel yet. We're hoping that we'll be able to do that soon. But this is not a product that is designed to move locations, okay? Once that dish is set up, it's stationary and it needs to stay stationary to stay in contact with the satellite. If it's moved, you'll lose the connection. So if you wanted to go to a new site, that would be a new install.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'd have to pay the install fee again and get a new site set up. Yeah? Satellite phones? Yeah, so we offer a hosted voice product residentially. We've debated rolling that out for business customers, like a voice product that's optimized to work on our network. We haven't launched it yet, but that's on the roadmap. It's something we're looking at launching. So, but yeah, voice phones will work on our service. Oh yeah, no. This is exclusively data on this. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, so here's what I want to tell you guys about that's pretty exciting. If you remember one of the first slides I looked at, I showed you guys Viasat 3, right? And that huge bar that was way up there and how much capacity that had. This is what we're working on today, and this is really exciting. So Viasat 3, which is currently under construction, is going to be a constellation of 3 satellites. So the first 2 are already being built. The third one was just commissioned last week. And they're going to cover the entire globe. So the goal of Viasat as a company is to be the world's first global ISP. So Viasat 3, the first one, will cover North and South America. The second satellite of the Viasat 3 constellation will cover Europe and Africa, and the third one will cover Asia, Australia. So those are going to be launched probably mid to late 2019, the first two. So the goal of this company will be able to say, you can go to a customer that's got locations worldwide and say to them, hey, I can provide you service at every single one of those sites with a company based in the United States and give you one bill for all those locations. So that is the ultimate goal of the company. We're excited about the direction we're going to get there, and it's going to be awesome when we do. Still a couple years away from that dream, but it's a neat proposition. And the cool thing also about Viasat 3 is that's 1,000 megs per second of throughput. So that's about 4.5 times which we've got out of our current satellite right now. So a huge, huge upgrade there. All right, so we've got a team that covers us nationally here. I'm based obviously here in the Southeast. This is our team, so I'll be your primary contact. I'm assuming most people here are Florida based, but we also have resources in other parts of the country if you need somebody to pay a visit with a client. So just something to keep in mind. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, 3G, 4G's got its advantages. It's certainly got its merit, but when a storm comes through, as was the case with this landscaper, they had a wireless backup in place, and those towers were down. You know, ultimately, all that cell phone traffic still comes to a tower that goes to some fiber that goes in the ground and goes somewhere else, right? And so if that goes down or gets knocked over or destroyed or damaged or whatever, 4G, 3G is going to be out just like everybody else. So again, the advantage of us is almost our entire infrastructure is 23,000 miles above the Earth. So it doesn't get touched by all those kind of things. Yeah? We are developing a SPIF that we're going to be launching, which I cannot disclose today, but it's coming soon. So in coordination with these plans, the new plans we're going to launch, we're going to have a SPIF. It should be pretty good. We'll probably 2x range, something like that. So hopefully that'll get some of your folks to try it. If anybody is interested in posing this to one of their customers as a strict redundancy option for a hurricane, I've got a really nice case study I can share with you. So just shoot me an email and I can get that to you. I've got my cards at the back. Real nice case study that we did up for a customer that went through Harvey. And we've got that. I can share that with you guys that you can share with your customers. Yeah. Yeah.
Any equipment you guys offer to do like auto failover?
No, you know, that's something that we've talked about offering as well. It would be great, like almost like an SD-WAN type box that you can plug into. Yeah, we were actually talking to a number of manufacturers about putting something like that into our devices or adding that with, but we haven't yet. So I agree. I think that'd be an awesome idea, just to have, you can plug in your cable, plug in your satellite, and it automatically fills over. Yeah, totally would be awesome. Anybody else? Cool. All right, so I left some brochures at the back. The pricing in the brochures is outdated because it's some of our older plans, so just bear that in mind when you look at it. But it does give you a great overview of the product, so some really good information. My cards are also at the back, so feel free to grab one of those and reach out. I can send you our latest materials when it comes out. Of course, you can also get that through TCG. And guys, I just appreciate your time. Thanks so much for listening.